Welcome back to Market Day. Now, a new survey indicates an expected surge in job vacancies next month should lead to a record lift in the number of people looking for better jobs. The study by Talent2, human resources outsourcing company, says it's found a 43% jump in job vacancies for January 2011 compared to the same period 12 months ago. It's predicted a record uplift in the number of new year job hunters as a result of renewed market confidence. And for more, we're joined now by Peter George, Director of Strategic Accounts at Talent2. And of course, our guest host this hour, John Noonan from Thomson Reuters. Mr. George, thanks very much for your time today. Look, a surprise, this expected uplift?
Not really. It's an annual trend where people have a bit of a look at what they're going to do over Christmas time and renew what they're going to apply for in the new year. But we do have some big economic trends coming through with a drop in unemployment, new job creations, another 55,000 jobs created in November. So there's a bit of a perfect storm happening for January and February next year.
So it's just underlying sort of confidence in terms of the labour market at the moment?
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a GFC throwback. 2 or 3 years ago, people were reluctant to change jobs. They were a bit fearful of the economy, a bit fearful of being unemployed. And there's a latent build-up in people wanting to change jobs, I believe. Now, if you combine that with the fact that people will, over a Christmas period, have a good look at what they want to do in the future, and the biggest advertising day in the calendar is the third week in January, so they'll be enticed into the market. And if we combine that with the underlying trends of unemployment and job creation, as I said, we've got a perfect storm happening in January and February.
Hi, Peter. John Noonan from Thomson Reuters. We hear a lot about the job tightness in the mining sector, out west, and two-tiered economy, etc., two-speed economy. Are you seeing this across all job sectors? Is this labour shortage or a seeming labour shortage, is that across all sectors? Do you see that going forward? Yeah, there is across various sectors, and if you actually look at the retail sector and obviously the health sector, there's shortages and increasing shortages in those particular areas. But there's also job types where there's particular shortages. Project managers right throughout all industries are short, and there's other trends like that across various particular jobs.
So whereabouts would you find, what sort of sectors and industry, the most amount of movement when we hit that peak period, as you say, in January, February?
Well, I think January and February will start to move as a group. The middle management and more senior management roles, they'll be the ones that will be advertised, and I think in that general band will be the area that will get the greatest uplift in the short amount of time of turnover. But the rest of the economy follows on after that as more senior managers change jobs, as more senior people in the organisation change jobs, as more job data comes out. I just expect that to go right across the board, right throughout the rest of 2011. With
such a low unemployment rate here in Australia, and many really saying we're just knocking on the door of total employment, is it a tight labour market at the moment? And if it is, and every reason to believe it is that having upward pressure on wages?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in wages in 2011. As I said, we've got a bit of a throwback from the GFC, and wages have been kept, a lid's been kept on wages over the last couple of years as people are a little reluctant to change jobs. And, we've experienced 2 years ago where people accepted the fact that if the company was going poorly or the economy was going poorly, they typically miss out on some of their bonus. That's changed now. People are starting to say the economy's turned and I want to get some reward now. So I'd expect an upward pressure on wages right across the board and bonuses in 2011.
And from the employers that you deal with, is that a concern for them?
Absolutely. Employers are starting to think how they're going to solve this problem. What work can they move to other countries or other parts of the economy? How do they shift their work around? How do they get smarter with the amount of work that they ask employers to do? And, organisations now are increasingly looking at, the work they're doing, what's core, what's not core, what can we outsource, how do we remain buoyant and viable as we go ahead with this, obvious pressure which is going to continue in Australia for the next decade or so.
What about the other strategy then for employers in terms of retaining staff that might be looking or could be persuaded to move elsewhere? How do employers deal with that? What are some strategies in terms of trying to retain them?
Yeah. This whole area of EVP, or employer value proposition, has come into the fore again. Basically that's employers looking at themselves and saying, why would someone work in my organisation when they can get a job down the road in a similar type of organisation? So the whole industry of employer value proposition is growing up in Australia. Organisations are starting to say, what can I give employees? What sort of development can I give them? How can I entice them into my organisation? And how can I make the working environment an attractive one? It's a different answer for different organisations, but there is groups in my clients who are devoting a great deal of time on that very issue of employer value proposition.
All right, Peter, look, thanks very much for your time today. Do appreciate it.
Thank you.